Imagine a voice inside your head, not always your own, constantly whispering doubts, eroding your confidence, telling you you're not good enough. What if this pervasive, insidious force, this inner critic, is far more widespread and destructive than anyone publicly acknowledges? Why does society, with all its focus on mental well-being, remain so eerily silent about something that impacts nearly every single one of us, every single day? To understand this profound silence, we first need to trace the enigmatic origins of the inner critic itself. It's not a singular entity, but rather a complex psychological construct, a cocktail of early life experiences, societal conditioning, and our own innate anxieties. Think of it as a defense mechanism gone horribly wrong. As children, we're incredibly impressionable, absorbing every nuance of our environment. A parent's casual disapproval, a teacher's harsh word, a playground bully's taunt, these aren't just isolated events. They're bricks in the foundation of the inner critic. Slowly, imperceptibly, these external voices become internalized. They settle into the deepest parts of our psyche, transforming into a relentless, self-appointed judge. But here's the unsettling part. While it originates from a place of protection, trying to keep us safe from perceived threats or failures, it eventually becomes the primary source of our self-sabotage. It convinces us that staying small, staying silent, staying safe within our comfort zone is the only true path, even if that path leads to stagnation and regret. This constant internal monologue of self-condemnation is a fundamental, almost universal human experience. So why the cultural blind spot? Why aren't we having open conversations about this omnipresent tormentor, dissecting its tactics and finding collective strategies to disarm it? It's almost as if acknowledging its existence feels like admitting a weakness, a flaw in our personal constitution, rather than a universal challenge. And this silence, this collective suppression, only grants the inner critic more power, allowing it to flourish in the shadows of our unspoken fears. But things take a darker, more complex turn when we consider the societal implications of this neglected internal adversary. The inner critic thrives on comparison, on the curated perfection we see plastered across social media, on the relentless pursuit of an unattainable ideal. It whispers, "They're better than you. You'll never achieve that," effectively leveraging the external world to amplify its internal narrative of inadequacy. Consider for a moment the immense pressure to succeed in careers, in relationships, in personal appearance. Every setback, every perceived failure becomes fresh ammunition for the inner critic. It's a relentless prosecutor, digging through our past mistakes, highlighting every misstep, and projecting a future filled with inevitable disappointment. When we attempt something new, something daring, the inner critic is the first voice to pipe up, warning of humiliation and ridicule, planting seeds of doubt that choke off inspiration before it can even take root. It undermines our self-worth so artfully that we often mistake its voice for our own rational thought, for sensible caution. This insidious process impacts everything: our career trajectory, our willingness to pursue creative passions, even our ability to form deep, meaningful connections. Think about how many brilliant ideas are left unvoiced in meetings, how many artistic endeavors are abandoned before they begin, how many potential friendships are never kindled, all because the inner critic convinced us we weren't smart enough, talented enough, or interesting enough. The consequences extend beyond individual aspiration. They ripple through our collective potential. What innovative solutions have been stifled? What groundbreaking discoveries delayed? How much human connection lost simply because we internalize the belief that we are fundamentally flawed and unworthy? The silence surrounding the inner critic isn't just an oversight, it's a profound systemic issue that impoverishes us all. Because when we don't name something, when we don't bring it into the light, it becomes far more difficult to challenge or overcome. It lingers in the shadows, growing stronger with every unexamined doubt. We're taught to push through, to be resilient, to just be positive, but these surface-level platitudes often fail to address the core issue: the deeply ingrained patterns of self-criticism that are continually reinforced by a world that values achievement over authenticity. It's a cruel feedback loop. Society demands perfection, the inner critic demands perfection, and when we inevitably fall short, the critic declares victory, reinforcing the very beliefs that hold us back. This isn't just about feeling bad, it's about altering our behavior, shrinking our world, and dictating the very scope of our lives. It's a silent epidemic of self-limitation, operating just beneath the surface of everyday consciousness. What they discovered next, or rather what we are slowly beginning to uncover, is just how profoundly this internal adversary reshapes our lives, often without us even realizing it. The inner critic doesn't just make us feel bad, it actively sabotages our chances of success, happiness, and fulfillment. Imagine a student, brilliant and capable but paralyzed by the fear of submitting a perfectly acceptable essay. The inner critic whispers, "It's not good enough. Everyone will see your flaws. You're an imposter." The essay goes unsubmitted, or it's submitted late, diminishing their academic record, not because of a lack of skill, but a surplus of self-doubt. Or consider a professional poised for a promotion who hesitates to speak up in a crucial meeting, convinced their ideas are foolish. The promotion goes to someone else, not because they were more competent, but because they were louder, more confident, perhaps even better at silencing their own inner critic. This isn't just hypothetical. These scenarios play out countless times every single day across the globe. Each instance is a tiny chip carved out of our potential, a small but significant moment where fear triumphs over aspiration. The inner critic is a masterful manipulator, an internal gaslighter. It convinces us that its voice is the voice of truth, of reason, of self-preservation, when in reality it's often the voice of past pain and learned helplessness. It creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. We fear failure, so we procrastinate, we self-sabotage, and then, when the expected negative outcome occurs, the inner critic crows, "See, I told you so." This reinforces its perceived authority, making it even harder to challenge next time. The devastating impact isn't just on individual well-being, it's on our collective human spirit. Innovation, creativity, empathy, all are dulled by the constant hum of self-denigration. We become less likely to take risks, less likely to connect authentically, less likely to pursue those wild, beautiful dreams that could genuinely change the world. The silence around this phenomenon is a tragedy because it prevents us from developing collective strategies, from sharing our experiences, from realizing that this internal struggle is not a sign of individual weakness, but a universal human challenge that, when recognized, can be collectively overcome. We are, in essence, all fighting the same often unseen battle, alone in our own minds, when a simple conversation could be the first step towards liberation. This silent epidemic of self-doubt is far more pervasive and destructive than society gives it credit for. It is the architect of our limitations and the gatekeeper of our potential, and by refusing to acknowledge it, we grant it unchallenged dominion. To this day, we may never fully eradicate the inner critic. It's a deeply ingrained part of the human psyche, a shadow that follows us. But the crucial shift lies in recognition, in naming this enigmatic force for what it is rather than letting it masquerade as our own authentic voice. By breaking the societal silence, by talking openly about the nagging doubts and self-criticism, we begin to chip away at its power. We learn to differentiate its often harsh pronouncements from constructive self-reflection. We realize we are not alone in this internal struggle, fostering a sense of shared humanity rather than isolated shame. The truth is, the inner critic, like a parasitic organism, thrives in darkness and silence. By bringing it into the light, by discussing its tactics and origins, we disarm it, allowing us to choose which voices we truly listen to, and ultimately to reclaim agency over our own minds and lives. If you want more mysteries like this, the next video explores the psychology behind why we ignore positive feedback and cling to criticism.